Hi, I'm Kumudini, founder of Kimey's Corner, a corner that is all about creative journaling for mental health, workshops, products, clubs. And every workshop that I take, all the people that I meet have one question in common, which is how did you get here? What did you study? How did you decide to leave the job? When did you decide that this is what you wanted to do? And by now, I am pretty tired of answering it over and over again. I mean, it's the same story, and the repetition can get to you a little. So I finally decided to put it into a video so that whoever asks me, I'll just send them the link and then they can watch it ahead. If you have also been wondering the same, I'm putting out this video where I'll be sharing a few things that I feel could be insightful for you as well if you are going to start your small business. So let's get started. I'll take you right from the beginning of how I started, what I studied, how did I decided to be here, how did I decide this is what I wanted to do, and how did I leave my job as well. So once upon a time in class 11, when I did not know what to do with my life, the common suggestion came to take non-medical because then you have a lot of options in life. And obviously I went ahead with it, although maths was quite a problem, but okay, nonetheless. So after doing my 12th, I went for BSc in general, that is Bachelor of Science in general, because again, I did not know what to do. And maths again was a problem, but still I went ahead with it. And 3 years into it, I realized that science was definitely not my thing. I could study well, I mean, I could get decent marks, but then I wasn't happy. And then I met a senior who was doing masters in literature, that is English, and she told me what all is studied in that course, and I was like, okay, this is something I would want to do. And I put it in front of my parents. They were supportive. They have always been, for that matter of fact. Let me register it right now itself. And then I went to masters in English. I did that, and while I was studying, I had some really amazing teachers, and I was so inspired by them, the way they taught us, the way they carried themselves, the confidence that they had. And I just felt like, okay, this is what I want to be probably. So I started preparing for UGC NET. So I cleared an interview in one of the private universities and I started teaching there, which was fun. However, it was repetition over and over again. There was some lack of creativity which could not be put into the course. And then I realized, this might not be my thing. I mean, I can't do a 9 to 5 at least because then I don't have a life. I don't have time to pursue my hobbies. I just get back, I cook and I sleep, and the next day is the same cycle. Get ready, go to the university, teach, and get back, and the same routine. That too, not having the freedom to do what all I want to do every day. So then I decided to quit. Of course, everyone wanted me to complete at least 1 year there for the experience, but then I think I couldn't have gotten around it. Then I got back home for some time. I was still figuring out what to do, and I was home and I realized, I can't be home. I need to do something. One second, I liked to write. So I thought, okay, content writing might be it. So I started giving interviews for content writing, cleared again one of the companies, and I started writing for them. A year into it, then lockdown came. The bosses were a bit toxic. They wanted things to be according to themselves, no creative freedom again, a lot of micromanagement, like every employee would say. But then the major problem was the 9 to 5 because again, there are times in the day when I have worked enough and then I would want to rest or I would want to do things at my own time, just deliver the result when you want it to be. That is something I realized. And then one of my colleagues one very fine day said, Kim, I know one thing about you, that if you do something of your own, you will really enjoy it because you want that freedom. You always crave that freedom. And I know that because every time I would step into my office, I would be like, I just want to go back home because it's a lot of rules. So that's something that I realized about myself, that I could not be in a lot of rules. I mean, it sort of takes away something from me. And so, I mean, yeah, first tip would be to please know yourself. Figure out what is it you want. Do you want the freedom or do you want a constant inflow of cash in your bank account? Whatever is your priority, I guess choose accordingly and see how things are for you at home and your surroundings. How much savings do you have, and then plan accordingly. Then what happened is, so now lockdown came and the salaries were reduced to, I guess, 20-30% of what we were being offered. And I was like, okay. And the toxicity kept on increasing. So obviously it was getting too much for me again. And I was like, okay, I think it's time to say goodbye here as well, which I did. So now I'm at home again. And for some reason, I'm feeling low as well because, of course, I'm seeing people progress in their lives, doing something with their careers. And one fine day, I realized I'm getting sadder and sadder because I'm not doing anything. So I had always been into art. I was journaling for many years by now. and my second love, which was writing, was also something. So I thought, why not, combine it into something and put it out on offer for people. And it was summer vacation, so it was very obvious that a kids workshop would just do it. So I announced my kids workshop. I was already running my Instagram page by now, and not very active, but it was still there. I was putting my artwork there at least. So now what I did is I just put out a post, I run an ad, and a few people signed up. I gave a free demo class for that matter. And now let me get you in on a secret here. The first workshop that I did for kids was a 10-day workshop, and I priced it at just 400 rupees, 1 hour each day. Now, this workshop was about scrapbooking and creative writing together, because these are two things that I love, and I knew kids always love it because, of course, we're all kids in heart somewhere, right? So then this workshop went well. I started doing more workshops, and by this time, one of my ex-colleagues who was already working for another company, he gave a referral about me in his company. I gave the interview, I cleared that, and then I started working for this company also while taking my workshops as well. Now, meanwhile, what has also happened is, so when I was in my first company, I know it's getting very, very puzzled right now, but try to understand. I can make a graph here probably. So when I'm working in this company, I have also tried to conduct an offline workshop, and I packed almost around 10 to 12 kits there. 2 to 3 people turned up. Now these kits were with me, and I had no space to store them. So now when I'm working for this company from home, now I have these kits which I don't have the storage space for. So I put them on my story in case anyone wants to buy it. All the kits got sold, and then I got requests for more kits. And I was like, okay, this is something I can do. So I started curating more journaling kits because I knew it's not there out in the Indian market yet. So now the kits started selling as well. So now all the things are going parallel. My work from home from this company, again content writing and content creation as well. Then my workshops, and then I'm also curating the kits by now. The lockdown is over. Now this company wants me to go back and work for them from office itself. And of course, I was confused. I talked to a few friends, and they were like, the workshops is something that you can always do even with a job, but you need a steady flow of income. And I was very confused. I was very low again because I knew somewhere that this is not what I want. I could imagine myself moving back to a new city, doing a 9 to 5, getting back into that same routine of coming back, cooking, sleeping, and getting up and going to work again. And I knew this is not something I could sustain for a long time, but still it felt like wiser things to do, or as per the society, this is how you are supposed to work or grow in life. By this time, I had also talked to my mother about it, about the confusion, and with a heavy heart, I just announced to her, "Ki, theek hai, I'll just go and I'll work with this new company from office itself." And then she called a friend of hers one day, and she made me talk to him. She was like, just go and talk. And of course, I'm someone who is not good at talking on phone, but I was like, okay, fine. So now I'm talking to this friend, and the first thing he tells me is that from what I know about your mother is, she is not someone who would force you to earn money or bread and butter for the home. I think your home is pretty stable. They can sustain themselves and they're not dependent on your income. And I was like, yes, that is the case. So like, why not use it for your leverage? And it was quite an eye opener because what we feel is, if we can't be dependent on our parents, we can't ask them for money. And it's such a limiting belief somewhere, because if your parents can give you that platform, if they can help you fulfill your dreams or at least try to build on your dreams, what's the harm? You can always pay them back, that's always there, but at least use it to your leverage while you can. So it was almost an hour long conversation. He gave me a lot of motivation. He told me, how even if I get back to the job, I know and he knows that I might not be able to sustain it, and the resume is only going to get worse from there onwards. And then it's quite a rough road ahead. So why not give it a chance? And if you fail at it, get back to a job. The jobs can always be there for you. And I was like, okay, fine, at least let's give it a shot. And I'm tired, I'll take a sip of water and be back. So now again, I don't have a job. And what I started as a side hustle has become the whole thing. That also meant that I need to put more efforts, because this is how I'm going to earn my living now. So a new thing that I came up was mystery boxes, monthly mystery boxes. And I remember the first time I put the stories, 12 people ordered it, and I was selling it for 310 rupees, including shipping and a lot of stuff. I knew I was not even making any profit back then, but of course it was an experiment. I did not even know if it was going to work, and I just wanted to make it work. That was one thing. So gradually, and I was taking orders on Instagram by now, by the way. People would send me a DM and I would note them down in a Google sheet. Okay, this person has paid, this person has not paid. I'm noting down their addresses in a sheet, and then I'm, packaging everything. I'm putting the labels, and I'm going to the courier office to ship all the parcels. Then eventually I figured a lot of things out. Eventually I figured out there are platforms for shipping which I subscribe to. Then I also built my website because taking orders on DM was getting quite annoying and frustrating and very confusing at the same time. Now that thing was around 3 years ago, and since then there have been more journaling workshops on more different topics. There have been almost more than 3,000 students. There have been journaling products. One new kit launches every month. The mystery subscription boxes have become a hit. I've also started journaling clubs, which is 12 sessions in a month, half an hour for mental health. And that's about it, I think. I mean, there has been a lot of struggle. Now it answers the question, how did I leave my job? And it just happened gradually. One thing led to another. And finally, it was that moment where I decided I would want to go on my own. In all this storytelling, I realized I still haven't answered one question, which is, how did you decide you wanted to do this exact thing? And again, if you go back to the whole story and if you try to get to the pointers, you would realize I never really sat down to figure out कि ठीक है, journaling is what I want to make my career in. It never happened that way. I mean, it was the kids workshop first, which I started with, and gradually the workshops increased. The kits were always there, the journaling kits, which I just put out on the story and they got sold, and I like, okay, let's do more of it. So it's just that it started with one thing, and then I kept doing more of that same thing, and then it became the whole thing. Then comes another FAQ, which is, how did you convince your parents? And if you look at it, things were happening gradually. So it never so happened that I sat down, I want to start my business, and my parents could say, no, you cannot do this. So I was working and I was doing this as a side hustle, so things were fine and then I took it all time. So I think they didn't have that time to say a no, but of course they had their moments of doubt. And that is not to say that I did not have my own doubts as well. So I still remember when I explained what it is to my father, and he said, so okay, that means this is not something you can do always. And that put in more doubts in my mind also. But then it could be true. It might be so that it's not something I can do always. I know I'll figure something out then. When it's not working out, I might start another business or I might take up a job. You never know. But then that is for every profession. A lot of businesses fail. A lot of jobs which are in demand at one point are not in demand at some other point. I mean, I still remember there was this one time when engineers were high in demand, so everyone got into engineering. And then there came a time when they were not in demand, and all the people who are studying or who are giving interviews are like, okay, what do we do with our lives right now? So I think that's sort of a risk that you take in whatever you do in life. And I did it with my own doubts. I'm not saying the doubts are never going to be there. You'll always be doubtful about what you want to do. But the whole thing is, does it make you happy? Do you really want to put in all the efforts into it? Even if it flops, do you have the courage to build it up all again? If not the same thing, do you have the courage to start learning something new and give another new thing a shot? And more than the courage, do you also have the resources? In fact, even till last year, my mother was telling me, why don't you look for a job also side by side? Why don't you, start teaching somewhere as well? And you keep doing this also in the evenings. And although that doesn't sound like a bad idea, I mean, it's good for my income also. It's good for my bank account as well. But then again, like I said in the very beginning of the video, I'm not someone who can work under rules. I mean, I was just joking with one of my friends one day that even if I open a whole full-fledged office for myself where employees are coming in, that office is probably going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. or I'll just give a liberty to everyone to just give me a time slot when I can expect them in the office. Because something that I cannot do myself, I'll probably not expect other people to do. Then I know a lot of people have this question of how much do you earn? And I think I'm still not at that stage where I can give the numbers to you. But I'll just say one thing, which is I earn enough to pay my bills and to keep the business running. But of course, I don't earn enough to buy a car or a new house. And that might take time or that might never happen. So, and I'm completely fine with it because this thing that I do makes me very happy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I have been able to sum up the whole journey in some way. I have been putting off making this video since forever. because one, I wanted it to be really perfect, and of course, it's a whole journey that has to be summed up. And I'm sure I still have missed out on a lot of points. And still, if you have some questions, put them in the comments, and I would love to hear about it. See you. Bye bye. Take care.